Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we believe mental illness can be temporary and transformative. Stay tuned for innovative, effective tools from experts in the field of mental health. Hosted by Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist. This podcast aims to change the narrative around mental illness. Move from a place of fear to a place of hope and solutions. Here on Your Mind.
Dr. Antoine Chevalier is an international lecturer, author, researcher, teacher, and practitioner working in the United States, Japan, and Europe. Dr. Chevalier has provided functional medicine services to the White House for over 19 years. He has held the position of functional medicine practitioner and advisor for key White House employees and the Executive Office of the President's staff for 3 administrations. So welcome. Thank you for joining us here this morning, Dr. Chevalier. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be able to talk with you.
Thank you, Doctor. Nice talking to you.
To begin with, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the work you do and what drives your passion?
Yes, when I was born in France, in a very small town, and my parents were undertakers. Right? So after school, it was a family business, so I had to clean up dead bodies, and it was a very traumatic childhood. So I became myself in need for solutions, and I was very determined to find a solution, and I knew intuitively that the solution to suicidal ideation or PTSD or major depression disorder is not in Western medicine. So I put myself through PhD in international development with minor in anthropology at Sorbonne University in Paris, so I could study other culture and how they heal themselves, which got me into a journey from Africa to Asia to South America, Australia, and then I had a moment of deep realization that it was time for me to transition from economy to healing. And with a partner, we moved to the US and we started on our own business. Now I do have my own business. I do have a second PhD in natural medicine, and I'm doing a third PhD with College of Natural Health in Indianapolis on brain therapy. And it's all functional medicine. And so whatever I do has no side effects. And now we're in a position where we can take, let's just say, a veteran who is homeless, suffering from PTSD, drug addiction, suicidal ideation, chronic pain, TBI, concussion, and it takes about 2 to 3 days of treatment, and it's basically gone and does not come back. And this work has been backed up by science. Now in Japan, I do work in Japan for the last 4 years, and we do have functional MRI that shows that the work that we do increase neural plasticity and connectivity by more than 70% in some cases. And so by allowing your body to heal itself and your mind to heal itself, we can see clearly a physiological change within the brain, which leads to people going back to full functionality. And so the most rewarding line of work that I am into right now in the nonprofit mainly is taking, like I was saying earlier, veteran who is homeless, who has been struggling with suicidal tendencies and drug addiction and PTSD and chronic pain, and it's gone. And after the treatment, we give him an application for a job. He fills it up, he gets the job, and he's able to keep it because he's mentally and physically functional again. So it's a successful transition from a homeless, suicidal PTSD state of being to a fully productive member of society.
Well, that's amazing. And so where are you located and what does the therapy involve?
So I do work in Washington, D.C. I'm a contractor for the Executive Office of the President of the United States. And that's for the for-profit. On the non-profit, my activities, like today, for example, I'm in Georgia, Atlanta right now, and treating people who are in this kind of situation, homeless, and I travel all over. Well, before COVID-19, I was in Japan twice, and then Dubai, Germany, Canada, California, Utah, Florida, New York. It was all over the map. And now it's more local and still in the US. Because as you can imagine, I do have to travel to people who are in need like this, who are in the streets, etc. So usually I have partners and people who just help me connect with the right organization. We talk, and then we have access to them, and then we can work with them directly.
So what does the therapy entail? What
Well, the
modalities are
therapy,
you using?
exactly. So the therapy entail the session looks like this. So I do have a machine that scans you, and then it's a biofeedback machine. But that's not really the novelty of the approach. The novelty of the approach really is, first of all, I take a lot of time listening to the person, and I take notes and I collect data about what the machine tells me, what the patient is telling me, and then after that, the patient is fully dressed up, and then I just need a massage table or a bed or a couch and a chair. So the person lies down, face down. I use two little machines that are available over the counter, like anybody can buy them on the internet, and just to help re-regulate the autonomic nervous system. It's looks like a pen, but bigger, and it's an electrical device, and I stimulate trigger points in the lower back, and that helps re-regulate the autonomic nervous system. Also use it on the neck and on the wrist. And depending on the case, depending on the data, I customize the treatment so the protocol changes according to the patient's needs. Then that's the first aspect. For the mental health part, which is a cognitive behavioral therapy that I created. The person turns over, face up, fully closed, and I look at the person. I ask permission to work with the person. I get the permission, and I sit behind the person. I put two fingers under the skull, and I ask them to close their eyes, but it's not hypnosis. Okay, so it's not hypnosis. People are fully aware, and they have to take responsibility. And then they go internally, and then I have a series of questions to ask, and I'm guiding them to go deep inside of them and trace where the issue is coming from. What is the root cause of that particular issue? Where is it coming from? And then we go deep inside, deep, 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 and sometimes it takes a lot of time. And until we finally find the right cause of the dysfunction that the person wants to be free from. So once that kind of work is done, then that's pretty much it. And it works.
So the first question that pops into my head is, how many people are you training to be able to do this? How can we move this to scale so that other
Right.
people can?
Exactly. So that's the big focus now. Is we are raising funds. We have a GoFundMe page. The funds for the nonprofit will be used to pay for the functional MRI study. Before I open a school and start teaching people, which is teachable, I can teach what I do. Even though it's unique, that's the only modality in the world right now that has, that is that kind of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. But I know I can teach this. And before teaching, we need a scientific published paper. So scientific research, scientific study, validated, published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, where we scan the patient's brain before and after. Let's just say 200 or 300 of them, homeless suicidal vets, for example. And we scan also 3 months after the session to see that there is, permanent freedom from the dysfunction that they were suffering from before the session. And then we can publish the results. And once those results are published, we're going to open a school as soon as possible.
Wonderful. Do you have those devices you were talking about, are they microcurrent? Are they?
Yes, they are correct. They are micro direct current. Technically speaking, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a healer. I'm an assistant. And I have a PhD in natural medicine, but it's a PhD. Okay. And so that's very clear. I'm not an MD. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a healer. What I do is I will help you. The secret sauce really is the cognitive behavioral therapy. So technically speaking, I'm a minister. And so I don't have any medical license, which is very important. And so when I'm going to start teaching, anybody can join the school. You don't need a medical background, or you don't need a medical license. You just need to be a minister. And so that way we can really help a lot of people. And those tools, it's like basically be going to CVS and buy ibuprofen and then do hands-on healing technique, right? So it's totally legal. It's totally fine. And those micro direct current, everybody can buy them over the internet. And there's nothing really difficult to use. It's, stimulating the lower back and the neck, which is where the autonomic nervous system is. And that's it.
Well, I did an interview with another gentleman who was working with the microcurrent, and he had a background in science, not really medical. And he talks about it the same way you do, that what's happening is they're facilitating the energy flow in the body. And then if this particular person, he's out on the West Coast, he'll get a referral from somebody who's maybe seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist and things just aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll give them this kind of assistance for the energy flow in their system. And then when they go back, the cognitive behavioral work progresses far more rapidly.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very familiar with this, the modality, and I did publish papers. So what I did though is it was getting too complicated, and so it doesn't really have the impact that we need. So I'm just using the machine to really the minimum, and the real innovation and the breakthrough is the cognitive behavioral therapy that I created, that I've learned from different experiences from all over the world, and especially Australia, where I had a teacher there. And so, but the modality has changed, it's evolving, and now what we see is complete reversal really on mental health issues that are really persistent, so with very little solution out there. The emphasis really is on the cognitive behavioral therapy. The machine is not, is maybe 10%. I would say 90% of the result, where the results are being done really is on the CBT.
So when you are talking about functional medicine, give us a definition of the difference between the traditional medical model here in the West, the allopathic, and functional medicine.
I will keep it very, very simple. So functional medicine is if you are in the state of dis-ease, right, disease, dis-ease, your body is lacking functionality in some vital organs or just the mind. or your own ability to function on a daily basis. So the approach or the angle from a functional medicine perspective is to restore homeostasis within the body, within the mind of the person, by assisting the person to heal himself or herself. So the approach is much more humble and non-invasive at all. And also the approach is more holistic. We don't perceive the body as different body parts. There is something that we call the whole being, who body parts are connected to one another, and there is this communication between, let's just say, the liver and the stomach and the nervous system and the lungs, etc. That communication breaks down and leads the human being to move into a dysfunctional state of being. And the functional medicine approach is to restore that function, to restore that balance within the human being with no side effects. That's the big difference, is whatever we do here has no side effects at all. Zero.
Excellent. So what advice would you have for somebody who's in the throes of their own difficulty right now, and they're looking for some assistance and they can't get to you? They're not going to be one of those lucky people that becomes part of your study, or?
I would definitely spend more time in nature and put down the phone. And I would definitely drink more water than soda. I would stop the coffee. I would look at the label of the food that you are buying. I would go online and just have like a basic nutritional education, just the basic, nothing complicated. I would cut down the processed carbs, processed food, and I would basically increase raw food intake or steam. Not, you will be amazed on how much impact the food that you eat or what you put in your body has, not only on your physical body, but your mind also. So for a quick, fast track, I would definitely do that. Like walking in the park, it's just 30 minutes a day, decrease the screen time, spending more time with your loved ones, especially now with the pandemic. It's a good opportunity to reset your life and assess where you are, what your priorities are, and relationships are very important, family, etc. So that's what I would do. But it sounds like a cliche because everybody talk about it, but that's why I usually keep it very simple, so you can actually act on it. You just have to do it. A lot of people talk. There's a lot of talk. People talk, people read, people watch, they consume a lot of data, and they don't act on it. You got to do it. Especially also sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Those are the big two, for example, when I have people coming for me for just weight loss or any physical problem. Usually that's a good one to cut.
And then there's, as a next step, if I've gotten a little bit more exercise and getting some fresh air, I've cleaned up my diet to the basics, so I'm eating actual food rather than chemicals for a lot of that. In my research for the interview today, I came across a company that you're at least promoting, or you enjoy them products yourself, and it's targeted nutrient or targeted vitamins based on the genetics. Is that?
Oh, yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's really good. I see a lot of good results with it. I know that, if you Google their name, and there's a lot of attacks out there. So I'm kind of a no-nonsense approach. I mean, that's usually the way I approach things, and I have my own way of testing products. And so I have an empiric approach. I mean, a scientific approach to things. So I put it to the test. I did put it to the test, and I'm having great results. I do sponsor that, and I do that, yes. And some people who need it, I'll do it. Some people who don't need it, then we don't need to. Like I said, if you just need to cut sugar, just cut sugar. Okay, but if you need to be more sophisticated, which I do have patients, right now, actually, I'm about to go to another state for an autistic kid. And for example, in this case, the parents are impeccable on diet. They've done everything they can, for the diet. They max it out. They're gluten-free, nightshade, sugar-free. And the kid is still, misbehaving and having a lot of issues. So, and he needs a session. And I know in that case, he's going to receive also a DNA customized supplements. And we basically have a little DNA test or we swap in the mouth and send it to a company. And we have the DNA report and the company. And I have my own input. I have my machine. I have my own assessment. So I'll tell them to change the formula and make it even more precise. So when the product is done, then the product is being shipped to the patient, and it works really well. I like this approach a lot.
And what's the product? What's the company?
It's Euphoria. And so the way I do it is I do, like I said, I have my own machine to test, and it's digital homeopathic frequencies, and the machine function like those dolphin or bats, sending frequency, and then it comes back like a radar. And now I have a 82-page report about what's going on with you, and based on that and based on your DNA, I'll be able to customize and create the formula with a company. And so the products that I offer to people are unique, and I really like working with them. I had great results.
So do you do any telehealth or any consulting with people through
I do.
The internet?
I do. Since with COVID-19 has basically changes a lot of the way we used to operate, and it is successful to a certain degree. It is. I take usually a 3-4 hour Zoom session where I ask a lot of questions, and also I'm going to ask you to do a blood test, a urine test, hair analysis, a DNA test. So I'm going to accumulate a lot of data about you, lots of data. And based on that, I'll be able to design what I call naturopathic pure premium food protocols. So functional medicine protocols, and it will be very detail oriented, and you just have to follow the protocol. And if you follow the protocol, you will get results.
So how do people find out more about you? What's the primary website you want people to use to contact you or follow up if they want to try and get a consult with you?
So the domain name now is www.heal.llc, which is basically heal, HEAL, .llc, Limited Liability Corporation. So it's very easy to remember. You can go to the website, and there is an email there, and there is a phone number, and they can contact me.
And you said something earlier about how that domain name is currently in transition, so they might get a glitch or two there, but
correct.
That's gonna get corrected.
It will be corrected. We just changed the domain name now, which is a lot easier to remember. This we basically simplify as much as possible because people are very busy. People have other things to do, and we just want to make sure that they are capable of remembering, what we do. I also do CBD nano water that I can customize. We have other products out there, and we work a lot also on the for-profit, I would say, for NFL players. I did a lot of NFL players for concussion and TBI. That was very, very successful there also. And especially people with tremors. Due to concussion, it's pretty much gone.
In the research for this discussion, I ran across several references to you using frequencies, color frequencies. Is that something you still do?
We do. I do another machine for that. So I have basically three different kind of technology. Usually, I use different technology for that. But yeah, there is a machine. I have two machines from Germany that are really good. I have technology from the US that I use, and plus the microdirect current. So it takes time. It takes, like I said, plus 2 days, 2 or 3 days. I use a lot of different ways, and I always customize according to what you need. And but what's very spectacular, let's say, is someone who had a head injury or concussion, and they shake, they have hand tremors, let's just say, and after the session, it's gone. It does not come back.
Oh, it's amazing. It's several people that I've worked with who've had concussion and traumatic brain injury have stumbled across people. There's a Dr. Zelinsky who does tremendous work with prisms and light frequencies and changing the lenses over the eyes and how it traumatically changes a person's ability to recover from traumatic brain injury. So it's an exciting time to watch all these advances.
Yes, it is. And I have a partner in Texas who is an eye doctor. And we're working together right now to, she has a method to diagnose TBI through the eyes. So we're going to try to establish that and make it scientific, like have the scientific evidence by corroborating her way of diagnostic the TBI through the eyes and then the functional MRI, because nobody can argue against functional MRI, right? So that's the gold standard. So if you can actually correlate results from the functional MRI and her way to diagnose TBI, then we know it's working. I'll just say it's over 97% success rate. It's scientifically reliable, so we can use her way of assessing TBI instead of a functional MRI, which is a lot cheaper, much less invasive, and more conducive. And so this is one line of research that we are trying to do right now, and that's very exciting.
Wonderful. Well, what's an aspect of the work you do or some passion you have that I haven't even asked you about yet?
Well, there is something else that also I'm very passionate about. I did treat victims of sex trafficking or human trafficking, and young girls who have been severely abused, and it was successful. But then you were talking about the microdirect current. You cannot. I could not do the microdirect current for them at all because they were so traumatized. So they could not even handle the electricity in the body. So it was only cognitive behavioral therapy that I created, and it worked. And so we have video testimonials, and we stay in touch with some of them. And, one of the very spectacular case was this woman, and who, I don't know if we have the time to go through a story, but she does public speaking for me now, and she's writing a book, and she's doing comedy, stand-up comedy in California.
Wow.
So I don't know if you can imagine, but when I met her, she could not sit, she could not look at you, she could barely talk. I mean, she was always moving like this. She couldn't sit like more than 30 seconds. She had to get up, and she was so traumatized. I mean, it was like unbelievable. And 47 years old, went through drugs and selling drugs, went to jail, in and out, Las Vegas, moved to California, prostitution age of 13, and got trafficked. And I mean, it was her story, and her friend just shot herself 2 months ago. Her best friend, she found her body in the pool with blood, and her brain was, I mean, it was unbelievable. It was a horror. And then after the session, she went back to normal. And now, when I do public speaking, I usually talk a lot less now. And I just have people that I worked with who just more than happy to come, and they explain their story so people can relate. I have another one really good, because I also treat criminals. I did treat a serial killer, a young man who 19 years old when I saw him. And age 6 to age 13, he mass murdered 78 animals for fun. He almost killed his mom, his dad, his sister. And then age 13, he became a heroin addict. And he got caught selling it and went to jail. He started attacking police officers. Then they sent to a high security prison. Age 18, he got kicked out, and they told him, if you keep doing that, you're going to come back as an adult, and it's going to be a different story. So he came back, and his sister died of a heroin overdose. And he told his mom, I don't want to die like my sister. I don't want to go back to jail. I need help. And that's all I need, is the intention. So there's only one requirement for this therapy to work.
Willingness to get better.
Is the willingness to get better.
Yeah.
And your belief system, whatever philosophy of life, way of life, doesn't matter. But the only requirement is that you have the intention, a genuine intention to want to change, to want to be free from whatever that is. And this young man came. We had one session, and turns out he was sexually abused by a woman at the daycare at the age of 4, every day, except on the weekend, for 1 year. So he goes on the table, he goes, well, I thought that animals and humans were like objects. So for him, killing was kind of fun. It's like, well, it's just an object. Why? Because when he was 4 years old, he was treated like an object, right? So I was able to assist him to really permanently clear the trauma from the past. And it looks easy, but it's complicated, trust me. And you need to know what you're doing. You really have to know what you're doing. And took me a while, but it's teachable, but you can do that kind of work. It's very, very beautiful, it's very profound, but the trauma from the past will be gone, like gone. It's not gonna come back. And the kid, after 3 weeks, stopped touching heroin, doesn't have the desire to kill. And 2 months after he came back for another issue, he wanted to know what he wanted to do in life. And 4 or 5 months after, he went back to university and learned about fashion. He wants to open his own business. So we went from, mass murdering animals to learning about fashion. That's good. And then there's another case. There was this Mr. Glenn Brown, who is a military veteran, Air Force, a former hockey player. And this man had 22 concussions. I mean, it was so severe, and he had he would stay in his room and doesn't want to socialize, doesn't want to go out, doesn't want to, suicidal, PTSD, major depression disorder, chronic pain, tremors. And it took me about 2 days, and that was now 2.5 years ago. And it's all gone. And same thing when I do public speaking, he's more than happy to come, and he shares his stories. Now he's like, he's on fire. He's flying all over. He has his own business. He's a public speaker. He's a real public speaker, and total change. And then the other one is Ellis, who used to be a gang member in California, who has done some very, let's just say, socially not accepted behaviors and decisions and whatnot. And this man in one session turned into a monk. So he's a very interesting character. When you see him, he has the robe, he's shaved, and then he has the tail behind. And when he starts speaking, you can tell that, he had a rough life, and you can really feel the gang, kind of way of talking. And then, he's a man of God. Like doesn't want to do any of it anymore. So the other one also, which is one of my star patients, is this woman, Gabby, and she had 100 seizures a week for 10 years. And
it sounds like it couldn't be survived. That's intense.
Right. Yeah. Oh, she's this woman is a tank. She's my sister now. We are so close together. So she's an amazing human being. I mean, I met this woman in a hotel room. It's usually hard, because it's just so, people find me the way they find me. I can't even comprehend. But basically, we met. That was 2 years ago now. 2 years ago, and she came with a service dog. Because if she has seizures, the dog is trained to lick her face and get her, back to awareness so she can function, right? So she came in the hotel. I have the video testimonial, and she's one of my star patients who comes for public speaking to talk about her case. It's just so incredible. And then she came with this big box of medical records.
Wow.
So she has this huge box. It's like files of the papers after papers after papers, and like she had brain surgery. You can see the scar was enormous, and she was addicted to fentanyl, and she was addicted to so many drugs, and nothing was working, and she was very suicidal, and her son was 11 years old. And so one session, and that was 2 years ago, and no more seizures, and she's drug free.
Wow.
So the most touching part was her son is 11 years old. So her son has never experienced his mom without seizures, right? Because she had seizures for 10 years and he's 11 years old. Well, now he has his mom, without seizures. So that's why I get up in the morning, That's what the passion, it was beautiful results. And here in the US is my good friend now works for me. We work together, is a retired Lieutenant Colonel Marine, David Banoff. And so this man served our country. Is in his mid-60s now, and I think 61 or 2. He was in chronic pain for 27 years. And he was suffering from insomnia and some other issues, and he was taking painkillers for years. We're talking, 15, 17 years. And then insomnia, sleeping pills for many, many years. And that took me about 3 days. And he couldn't run at all. He could not pick up things because it was too painful. He could barely go down the stairs without pain. I mean, even if he walks, then he had to stop because it was so painful. So that was about 10 months ago now, and same thing in 2 to 3 days. And now he's up and going and running and picking up stuff, and he sleeps without sleeping pills, and he doesn't take any more painkillers. And we work together, especially for the veterans here in the US, which is really my focus and priority. Veterans are sacrificing their lives for our freedom, and to me, that's the highest priority of my time. And we're doing the research with 4 of them, and the fact that veterans are killing themselves in the streets. I mean, the statistics is 24 a day. We lose 24 veterans a day due to suicide. It's just unbelievable. And that's what keeps me up in the morning, and because I know I can make a difference. So it's hard for me to not do that, and when I'm being distracted by nonsense during the day, I can't even. It's difficult because I really want to save them, and we definitely can. I mean, and I believe in our generation we can end. If we do it right and we come as a team, we can end homelessness and suicidal ideation. I mean, I strongly believe that.
Wonderful. Well, I am honored that you would take the time to share this with our audience, and I'm grateful for what you do.
Thank you.
And I look forward to following your work. And
Thank you, sir.
heal.llc is the website.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to check back with you in about a year, see how things are going. It's an honor to meet you.
It's an honor to meet you too. Thanks
so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Dr. Antoine Chevalier is an international lecturer, author, researcher, teacher, and practitioner working in the United States, Japan, and Europe. He has published in peer-reviewed scientific journals multiple times His research includes areas of concussion, post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injuries and tremors, depression, suicidal ideation, pain management, solution for addiction including opioids and drugs, diabetes and autism. Dr. Chevalier is currently working with military veterans who have been clinically diagnosed with suicidal ideations, individuals battling depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, gang members, children with autism, and patients who are visibly impaired in multiple ways. He works with professional athletes, including NFL players suffering from concussion and tremors and more. Dr. Chevalier is not a medical doctor. His background is in functional medicine, and he covers a wide range of conditions that can be addressed successfully in a non-invasive way. His research has led him to the creation of his new therapy called neurological integrative therapy, or brain therapy, scientifically proven through functional MRI studies. Dr. Chevalier's nonprofit organization, working in collaboration with retired Lieutenant Colonel Marine David Benhoff, takes homeless veterans suffering from suicidal ideation, addictions, depression, chronic pain, traumatic brain injuries, concussion, and successfully transitions them to be productive members of society with his new treatment modality.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.